This fucking science experiment proved that the future can rewrite the past. I mean, just let that sink in for a fucking second. So to start, we fire particles of light called photons at a barrier with 2 slits. Now, despite the fact we only shot 1 photon at a time, we get what's called an interference pattern on the detector, which kind of implies that the photon had to go through both slits at the same time and then interfere with itself, and somehow it just doesn't make sense. So scientists were like, nah, we want to see what slit the photon actually went through. Except, once we start doing this, we don't get an interference pattern. They just start acting like bullets. Now, you won't believe this, but it's actually just the possibility of knowing which slit the photon went through fundamentally changes its own behavior and path. Fuck off. The universe somehow knows if it's possible to know and changes its behavior accordingly. Now, it sounds pretty weird, but imagine we get this exact same experiment and we give it a hit of DMT and a line of meth. So this time, every photon is actually split into 2 entangled twins. What the fuck is an entangled twin? Side cam, entanglement is kind of another one of those glitches in the matrix thanks to quantum mechanics, but essentially when you have entangled particles, they become 2 sides of the same coin. What happens to one of them definitively and instantly tells you what happens to the other. Now anyway, one of the entangled photons goes straight to the detector as normal, but the other one goes through a longer path of all these mirrors and beam splitters and all this kind of shit. Now remember, the first photon hits the detector screen before we can do anything to the other one. So our intuition tells us that once it hits the detector screen, what's done is done, and it's not like we can go back in time and change its behavior any. Of course your intuition's fucking wrong, because if we decide to scramble that information so we don't know which slit the second photon went through, the first one will turn into an interference pattern. And if we decide not to scramble the information so we do know which slit it went through, then the first one will start acting like bullets. This all happens despite the fact that you are changing this information after it has already happened. It knows the future. What you do with the information of the second particle influences the behavior of the first particle backwards in time. But I know you're not going to believe me, but just Google the delayed choice quantum eraser. Research this shit for yourself. Don't just leave it to me. Alright, now get the fuck off your phone, because whatever the fuck I blubber on about is definitely a sign that you've been on this platform for far too long.